Okay, we are back then. We have the Stony Stratford branded beanie hat of truth, and we have a Stony Stratford legend in Mr. George Wood answering your questions this evening. How you doing, Woody?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you, Andy. Really good.
Excellent. So, as ever with this, who knows what's in the hat? But I think first of all, tell us. You briefly talked about this in your My Stony story, which I thought was excellent, about how you got involved with the club. So, take us right back. Where did it all start for you with Stony?
Yeah, well, where it really started was I was working in Milton Keynes at the time, and I hadn't played cricket for a couple of years. So I just thought, well, it'd be good to. I'd moved to the area, be good to meet some people. I thought, why not play a bit of cricket? So found Stony, and yeah, it was my first game for the firsts that the skipper at the time, Steve Underdown, excellent skipper. We were looking for promotion to the Prem, and yeah, he took me to one side, and there'd been an injury to one of the openers, and he did really take me to one side and say, Woody, we're looking to sign a decent opener, but in the meantime, you've got the job. Which, which obviously filled me with confidence, but I managed to scrape together a few runs, and it went from there. So yeah, it was a good introduction to the side.
And this was 1990s, so you've got at least 20 years under your belt. Although there was a pause during that for family time, from what I hear.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have been 99 or 2000. I think it was the year we won promotion. And yeah, like many people now, I guess I did have a time off from playing much for Stony from about 2008 9 for a few years because of kids and family and work and all that sort of stuff. But I'm really glad to say that the kids now both play down at Stony. And I'm sort of back involved both coaching and playing, which is an absolute joy. And even in that time when I wasn't playing, it's the sort of club I could just go down to, see friends, watch the cricket, enjoy it. So I never felt not part of the club, even though I wasn't playing all that time, which is just, is how a club should be, really, I think.
And you've come down to my level now. I would say, having played with you a few times, you're slumming it a bit in the thirds, but we're very glad to have you. And as well as that, you're doing your coaching. How did you get involved with all of that?
Yeah, well, the coaching I've coached another sport. I've coached a lot of badminton in my time. I used to work for Badminton England, and I coached a lot of badminton there. And when the kids got involved at Stony in the cricket, Stony were looking for coaches. We always are looking for more coaches. We've got a fantastic and large junior section. And it was when my son actually was progressing into the hardball section. Um, I said I'd be very happy to coach at Stony, and it ended up that I ended up coaching his team. Although that wasn't actually what I put my name forward for. I was happy to coach wherever. Stony's very progressive. The club pays for people to come in and do their coaching qualifications to make sure we've got qualified coaches. So I did my coaching course, thoroughly enjoyed it, and started there with the under nines several years ago, and I'm now they're under 13s, and I'm doing the head junior coach role as well, which is um, really enjoyable. We just got such a good junior setup, girls and boys, and all kids of all abilities enjoying their cricket and growing as people, and that's a fantastic thing to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed in 2020 bumping into your lad at games, and he's becoming something of a cricketing badger. I think, if you don't mind me saying, he loves it, doesn't he?
He does absolutely love it, and there's a role for everyone within cricket. So he loves coming along and doing the scoring and doing the scoreboard and all that. He loves bowling, so he's a bowler number one, and then a leg spinner, and he's got all his variations, which he loves. He loves tinkering with and playing with, which is fantastic, and he likes to have a swipe with the bat too. So yeah, it's great to have him involved, and being part of it, well, him being part of the senior stuff, but also me being part of his stuff, the junior stuff through coaching, which is a real privilege.
And presumably at some point you're looking forward to maybe playing in the same team as him, if that's not
Yeah,
happening.
that would be absolutely great. I think that would be really good fun. You know, there'll be a time where maybe I'm playing down to be in the same team as him, and then there'll be a time where he's far too good for the team that I'm able to
Circle of
play
life.
in. And it'll go off, and that's just the way it should be. So yeah, I would love to do that at some point.
Right, let's delve into the beanie hat of truth and see what comes out. All of these questions, all meant in the best possible taste, I hope. So let's see what we have here first out of the hat. Right, I think this is from Gully, and I think it's a question that can either be taken tongue in cheek or can be taken seriously. So you can choose. Working in sport, are there any learnings you've tried to apply to your cricket coaching?
Oh yeah, yeah. There are loads. The things I try and take into my cricket coaching. Number one is to make it fun. Fun for all the kids who come and get involved, because and I guess that's been a shift within sport development, even within talent pathways in sport over the last 15 or 20 years. You know, when I first came into working in sport, you could have very coach driven sports. It's all about what the coach says you do, very limited choice. Now, you know, it's society's changed, kids have changed, expectation of sport has changed, quite rightly, and for the good. And one of those things is whatever level you're coaching at, you need to make it enjoyable. Now, as you get up the pathways, you get more, you know, serious about your cricket or whatever sport you're into, there will be hard work involved as well. But the more you can make that fun, and the more you can make that engaging, and the more you can make that about decision making for the kids, the more they'll enjoy it, the more they'll want to come back next week, and the more they'll want to be involved. So I'd say taking from the work environment into sport, number one is fun. Um, and I think I've been privileged to work in my working career with people who are Olympic gold medalists within elite programs. Um, and you see just how hard they work at the very top end. So I think maybe bringing that understanding of what it takes at the top end, and also the rounded nature of the skills it takes. It's not just about being technically good. It's about having the athleticism. It's about having the right attitude. It's about the ability to learn. It's about the ability to make decisions. Hopefully, I'll translate some of that into my coaching. So rather than just looking at the technical side of things, you look at the rounded individual.
So with those elite sports people, who stood out for you that you worked with, if you're allowed to divulge stuff like that?
Yeah, I say worked with here in the loosest sense, because I never actually I never coached this person. I'm on the my role is less technical, more administrative. So looking after programs and funding and player pathways and things like that. So a little bit of technical, but it's far more on the administrative side. But I was very lucky early in my career at Badminton England to work with or to work in the performance team there. And we were lucky to have the 1996 Olympic champion, a guy called Paul Eric Hoyer Larsen, still training in England at that time. And the guy was just fantastic. He's on the International Olympic Committee now. He's a fantastic representative for the sport of badminton. He's, I think, the only European man ever to have won the Olympic gold. And he was dedicated, phenomenal player, a left-hander, which also always helps in my book as well, but phenomenal player, extremely respectful with the staff he worked with, but absolutely focused on achieving his ambitions, but always had time for all the people in the office, he was with. All he demanded from the people he trained with was absolute focus when they trained with him. Not everyone gave him that, which I found fascinating. That he was training with some players who were nowhere near as good as him, yet didn't give it the focus they should have done when they're on court with the Olympic champion. But a thorough gentleman, a fantastic player, and someone I admired then, and I still admire now.
Right, and back into the hat we go. Okay, this one I think again is either from Mr. Bellew or Mr. Gulliver. something about an altercation with a former England player before a match. Are you able to tell us that story in a clean way?
Well, I guess as a young guy, you can get a little bit overexcited around the match day environment. It was actually
I really can't.
and it was actually a case of we were playing against a team who had a very good medium pace bowler. He was very medium, but he could land it on the same spot every single time. And I think I was captaining Stony, and we were actually playing at a ground, really good ground, fantastic facilities, one of the best ones in the league, with fantastic covers. But somehow they'd not put the covers on quite correctly.
Right.
So there was a flap missing from the covers. So the water had got through on one area and one area only, which was on a length, absolutely on a length. And I couldn't believe it when we got these covers off and saw that their bowler was going to be bowling on exactly the spot he wanted on a completely hard wicket, apart from one little bit that was wet. So I think I made my feelings known about the state of the covers to the said person. He was unimpressed, and on reflection, he was probably quite right to be unimpressed, given the covers at Ostler's Lane have traditionally been the worst covers in the whole of the Northants League for about 20 years, although we're getting that sorted now. So yes, we did have a disagreement about that. I've got to say, on reflection, he probably had a point that our covers were nothing to write home about. And unfortunately, that bowler didn't actually take too many wickets on the day.
Now, I notice you've left out the name of this person from this. If that's how you'd like to leave it, we can move on to the next question, but I just thought I'd raise that point.
Yeah, no, I think I will leave it. I will leave it at that.
We'll do a George Wood uncut version of this later on in the season, perhaps. Right, back into the hat. Okay. This again, you've got a wonderful YouTube channel called Wherever Cricket that I try and steal stuff to put onto our YouTube channel and make sure that we, cross promote. It's really good, but somebody's made the point, why'd you get your son to do some of the drills?
Right. For a couple of reasons. For some of them, or a few of them, it's good to have the kids doing it so that they can actually demonstrate for other kids. Because the whole point of the Wherever Cricket stuff was just to try and give the kids at our club some fun stuff to do during lockdown. So it's pretty much only focused on lockdown type activities. So when we couldn't get out coaching them at the ground, here's some activities you can do, in a really small space. So it was great to have the kids doing a little bit of the demos, because then it shows the other kids what they can do. The other bit is for the bowling demos, and especially the wrist spin bowling demos, he's a lot better at it than I am. So I quickly decided he would be much better doing that bit of presenting than me. And it's been a family effort to do it, actually. The kids have been involved doing lots of the behind the camera and the editing and whatever. And it's been a good fun thing. And they felt, and I felt, we could contribute something to the kids who haven't been able to train during lockdown.
Well, I'm sure it's something I've had a look at. I don't have a garage. I don't have a small space. I'm just making excuses, really. But with me, the thing I need to work on is my running between the wickets. But we'll maybe get to that a bit later on. Here's one, and this is probably as close to but I think it's all right. Where would you consider your finest performance of the Cossack to have been?
Oh, there have been so many. There have been so many, but it's sometimes since my knees have been able to do to take any sort of dancing like that. So I really don't know and can't remember.
Just staying on that one for 30 seconds. Just how did it come up in a cricket changing room? Did you just come in one day and go, right, I know this really great dance? Or was there a story?
No, honestly, I am struggling to remember. I've got a feeling that actually it does appear in the film Saturday Night Fever. And I can only believe I watched that and thought, well, that would be a good thing to do, and so decided to learn how to do it. excellent for your leg strength, Andy. So if you're running between the wickets, I might show you how to do it, and you can practice to your heart's delight, and you'll build up those quads in no time.
That would be comic to watch, I think. I've got two left feet. Right. Okay. Right. We won't. I won't ask you that one. I don't think it's too bad. It's just about tour-related anecdotes, but we'll possibly move on to this one instead. The best player you've played against, and best player you've played
Oh,
for, or at it, I think.
the best player I played against.
Yes, and for as well.
The best player I've played against, there have been some fantastic players we've got to play against in the NCL, I've got to say. Sunil Joshi, the Indian test spinner, was very, very good. But probably the best batsman I've played against was Rob Bailey, who played for Northampton, England. Obviously, he'd come to the end of his Northampton career by the time he played against us, and he was playing for Northampton Saints. But my goodness, he hit the ball so hard with so little effort and knew exactly what he wanted to do at all times. And he scored 100 against us at Ostlers Lane. And I fielded myself. I think I was captain at the time because I remember I chose where I was fielding. And I fielded myself at sort of an extra cover position, which was the right place to field. But my hands stung so much after. And I don't think I've ever had ringing hands after 50 overs in the field, but they really stung after he'd batted. Absolutely superb. The best bowler we played against, or I played against, I think it was a guy called Brendan Furry, who was the overseas professional at Old Northamptonians. And I remember in our first or second game in the Prem, I opened the batting against him, and he was sharp for league cricket. I mean, I was nowhere near it, and he swung the ball. He knew what he was doing with the ball. Fantastic player. He had me LBW on about the second ball, and I wasn't given because I don't think the umpire saw it either. But I didn't last much longer after that. And the single best ball I've ever faced was a guy called Richard Stemp, who played for Yorkshire and England A. And he played for Northampton Saints.
Yeah.
And he bowled me an arm ball, and I had absolutely no idea about what was happening with the ball, apart from when it went past me, I thought, well, that's bowled me. And somehow it missed the stumps, missed the keeper, and went for byes. But absolutely, I still have no idea what he was doing with it to this day. What a lovely bowler he was.
And best players you played with? I mean, obviously Dion briefly by the sounds of it, Simon Harmer as well in there.
Yeah, Simon's a very good player, but not at that point, as Dion alluded to. He was a top order batsman who bowled a little bit, and his bowling just got better and better through the season. But he was a decent player. But I think the best overseas player I've played with, although Dion's probably the best level as a batsman, we had an overseas player called Shannon Tubb, who was at club level just as good a batsman as Dion. He would score loads of runs just like Dion would score loads of runs. At a higher level, probably Dion was a better batsman, but at club level, Shannon could bat just like Dion. He was an absolute gun fielder, but he was also a really good wrist spinner. His number one discipline was left arm wrist spin. And when you got a guy who can turn the ball both ways, when you get down to about number 7 in the in league cricket, he's going to be far too good for them. I mean, he was too good for a lot of top order batsmen. But get down to 7, he'd just run through them. So in terms of impact as a club cricketer, Shannon was hard to beat because he could do all 3 disciplines at a really good level and win you a match batting, bowling, or fielding. And he did actually run someone out once. A young lad came in, played a full defensive to him, and was very chuffed with himself. The ball trickled back to Shannon, who picked the ball up at the bowler's end and threw it over the back of this guy and ran him out. Ran him out of his own bowling. The guy wasn't even trying to run. He was just holding the pose of the full defensive. Phenomenal cricketer. So yeah, Shannon's the best overseas player I've played with, and Steve Bellew is easily the best domestic bowler we've had. He's if you can swing it at a little bit of pace and actually know where you're trying to put it again and again and again, you'll take wickets in league cricket. And he's taken loads of wickets in league cricket just doing that.
I must admit, 2 years I played for Stony, I've only had the pleasure of Steve in the thirds, a 40-something-year-old Steve. But even then, you look at him and I can see with my limited knowledge of higher level cricket, he knows what he's doing. It's fair to say, and a nice bloke as well.
Knowing what. Yeah, knowing what you're doing, and I mean, it sounds easy. Being able to swing the ball and land, say, 5 out of 6 in the right place. When he's a bit younger, he did it at a bit more pace as well. But it's the swing that counts. It's being able to do something with the ball and having that skill. That's what makes the difference.
And I think you alluded in your My Stony video to David Willey playing against him.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He was a very competitive young man. I mean, we definitely played against him when he played for Old Northamptonians. And I think he might have played for the County Colts team as well. I can't quite remember, but definitely for Old Northamptonians. Really competitive. So decent batsman and a decent bowler, but probably someone who you wouldn't have picked out and said he is going to be an England cricketer. But he clearly had a really strong work ethic and a really strong will to win, and he's built himself into a fantastic cricketer. And I think it's all credit to him, because he wasn't, of all the young top players we played against, he probably wasn't the one that stood out. But that doesn't actually matter that much. It's how much you want it, how much you're willing to put in, how much you're willing to learn your skills. And even if you watch him now, you see him evolve his game year after year to keep himself relevant. And I think that's phenomenal testament to his, to his dedication to doing what he does.
That brings me to an interesting question about coaching then, because I guess I've always thought the key years in developing a cricketer were probably the ones when I didn't play, which was probably 14 upwards, because, I wasn't that good, so I drifted away from Colts cricket. I was batting 11, not really bowling very much, and I lost a bit of interest. But by the sounds of what you're saying there, and this is quite an interesting question, I think, for any of the younger players at Stony that are watching, even if you get to 18, 19 and you're not fully developed as a cricketer, you still have that scope to learn and perhaps progress in your early 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. Cricket or any sport. I think it would be fair to say that in a sport like cricket, which has got a lot of technical basis, and a lot of basis in perception. So you have to be able to perceive depth, perceive length of the ball, all that sort of stuff. A lot of tactical element as well. If you're not playing and developing at sort of 10, 11, 12 years old, it's going to be difficult to make it as a top end player. And you're probably looking at those players are going to be going on to be pros. A lot of them really being very good men's cricketers, or women's cricketers for that matter, as we have a lot of good women's cricketers at Stony as well, at the age of sort of 15, 16. And that's similar to my other sport of badminton. You'd expect someone who's going to be a top player will be really good by the age of 15, 16, and they'll have definitely started by the time they were 11 or 12. However, the best players keep on learning. And we talked about Simon Harmer, and Dion mentioned him, that actually you wouldn't have picked him out as going to be the best spinner in England at the age of 19, but he is the best spinner in England now. And you look at the very top players, they continually evolve and learn. Even look at Joe Root. By his standards, he's had limited success over the last 18 months. He's gone and worked on his game, and he's better now than he was. So I think the lesson for me is whatever level you're at, there is opportunity to learn and develop and get a bit better. And you might not play for England, you might not play for the Stony third team, but you can get better. And if that's what floats your boat, getting better, then there's always scope to do that.
And presumably as a coach, you're almost more excited by seeing a player who was, let's say, playing in the fifths, who's worked on their game to play for the thirds, than developing a first team player, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it's about the individual development of that person, whoever they may be. So, number one, I want to see them happy and enjoying their sport. And hopefully that's contributing to a wider happiness in their life. So that's number one. Then in terms of development, absolutely. If someone has set an ambition and to get into the fifth team for the first time, fantastic. Or they want to score their first 30, or they want to take a wicket or 5 wickets. Helping someone to progress um, is what it's all about. And it's not actually about the end result. It's more about enabling people to fulfill their ambition and their potential. My favourite coaching moment from cricket is a young lad, and it must have been in our under 11s. And it's actually Steve Wharton had done most of the work with this young lad. And at the start of the season, he'd struggled to bowl, and halfway through the season, he managed to take a caught and bowled in a match in front of quite a lot of parents and whatever had come to see this Sunday morning match. And it was just phenomenal. It was so pleasing to see him so elated, and he'd worked hard on his skill, and it'd come off. And he was absolutely delighted, as were all his teammates, that he'd taken this caught and bowled. That for me is every bit as satisfying as seeing a player, go and score 100 in the ones.
Back into the hat. Let's see what we've got. Right. I quite like this one. I think I put this one in. There's a double ton in your career, isn't there? Tell us a bit about
Yes.
that. Was it overseas?
It was overseas. We used to go on a tour to Mallorca, and they had a cricket pitch out in Mallorca. I think there's 20,000 expat Brits out in Mallorca. So they had a cricket pitch, and they used to entertain teams coming out there from the UK early in the season, sort of Easter time, pre-season. I have to be very honest. It was an AstroTurf wicket and a sort of shale outfield.
Right.
So once you'd hit the ball into the outfield once, it wasn't going to be swinging anymore. That was for sure. And so they had a couple of reasonable bowlers. I think that would be the best way of describing it. But I'd got to 120 overs of a 40-over match, and I thought I will probably never ever get the chance to score 200 again. So the one key to it though was the guy at the other end was a chap called Ian Lang, and he was a distance runner. Was what is like. So he was a decent cricketer, but distance running was what he was really into. He'd been on a 15k training run that morning, but he was along with me. He was definitely going to be the fastest runner in the team, and he got to 50 and wanted to retire. And I said, "You can't retire, Lammy, because our next guy was actually unders, the captain of the team. So you can't retire because I'm never going to get 200 with unders coming in. So I wouldn't let Lammy retire." And he ended up with huge cramp on 96 not out, and I had given him the whole of the final over to get his 100, and he started on 94, and he could only make it to 96. So that was hey, it was good fun to score a double 100 because I'll probably never get the chance again.
Because it was a tour game, though, was everyone on the sideline almost not willing you to succeed and saying, "Come on, Woody, let someone else have a go"?
Well, the best thing was that Unders, who was the captain, was also batting number 3. And Unders notoriously does not like to spend any money. And it was really quite hot. So the best bit was seeing Unders padded up for a whole 40 overs, knowing he'd have to spend his €10 match fee on watching me and Lammy bat. I must admit, in all seriousness, though, I've never ever retired or walked off in a game of cricket unless the rules have said it. Because the point is, the opposition's got to get you out. I actually think it's disrespectful to walk off in the game of cricket, like you're saying you're too good for them. You keep on batting till they get you out. When they get you out, you walk off. That's as simple as it gets for me. But watching Unders in his pads for 40 overs was an added benefit.
You'd have loved me hobbling off last year at Campbell Park then.
I did try and send you back on, Andy, I think, but anyway.
this goes back to the sort of the running joke that we've had about advice for batting colleagues who aren't as quick between the wickets.
Get
Ask me
quicker.
for a friend, of course. What do you think?
I think get quicker is the advice. Um, look, I mean, Graham Gooch comes up with a great point that batting shouldn't really be called batting. It should be called run scoring, because that's what you're there to do. You're not actually there to bat. You're there to score runs. So I think it is an area of the game, in all seriousness, that certainly probably at all levels of club cricket and definitely junior cricket, people could become better batters without ever worrying about becoming technically better at hitting a cover drive or a pull shot or whatever, concentrating on their running. When can I actually take a run? There's so many runs that are left out there because we don't practice our running, and possibly doing a little bit of work on speeding themselves up would also be more beneficial to their achievement than learning to play the cover drive better, because you will score more runs. So I think it's actually, in all seriousness, something that all club cricketers, it's a really easy way of becoming better without having to do any work on your batting whatsoever.
So, are we suggesting with the Strava group that's been set up for the club that next time I go out for a run, I strap my pads on and a box and a helmet? And
well, the one thing, the Strava group's a great idea. Get fitter and whatever. The one thing it doesn't encourage is short, sprinty type running. And actually, if you think about what you're doing when you're batting, you're running short sprints a lot. So I do think actually building some short sprints into your training program nearer to the season, making sure you're very warmed up when you've done it, so you don't pull anything, is not a bad idea. Putting your pad and your bats, getting your bat, putting your pads on and your gloves, that might be taking a step too far running around Campbell Park. But, I'll leave you to decide, Andy.
I promise you, I've bought some new spikes this summer as well, and I'm going to make sure they are in there. So I'm not even going to slip over with any luck.
Fantastic. Good thinking.
Right, back to the hat. Now, I had a look on Play, which obviously is the Oracle, but doesn't have all the games. As a rule of thumb, I think it's probably got about 50% of the matches, because obviously guys who have played a bit longer, it goes back a long way. I've seen you bat a lot. You're a much better batsman than I'll ever be. However, what I saw was a 3 for 13 in a seconds game. So I'm just thinking, Gully, this summer, if you play for us in the thirds, should he be giving you a bit more of a bowl?
Yeah, I think anyone who's seen me bowl would dispute that, Andy. I should get in there that my best figures actually are 7 for 43, which are just the thought I'd mention. And I have got a first class wicket taken or the wicket of a first class player taken off a double bouncer. It still gives that player nightmares. But it was when double bouncers were still allowed in the laws of the game. In all seriousness, for the third 11, I definitely shouldn't be bowling, because I think what I've really enjoyed about the thirds is we got some great kids coming through. So there's absolutely no point someone like me bowling, whether I take a wicket or not. Compared to youngsters, we've got Josie has done a great job. We've got Louis Gulliver and Joe Mullaney and all these youngsters, and of course Neil Futrell. It's about them getting a proper game. So definitely no, I definitely should not be bowling for the third 11, second 11, fourth 11, or any other 11 that I'm allowed to play in.
If there's a Sunday side out there that wants somebody to come and bowl, you'll happily turn up, right?
Oh, absolutely. I enjoy turning the arm over, but no, I'd definitely rather see the kids do it. That's for sure.
I notice again you haven't mentioned the name of the first class cricketer. Are you going to divulge that one, or is that another one for another day?
Well, that's I hope he doesn't mind me saying it. A good friend of mine, James Kettleborough, who was a absolutely lovely player. Fortunately, does a little bit of coaching with me now and again, and he's been great with the kids as well. But yeah, poor old JK is But then again, he did break Alistair Cook's school record for a season at Bedford School. So I'm sure he can. I'm sure he can live with one slight bad memory of getting out to me.
Now, going back to coaching, so you're the head of our junior coaching, and I don't expect you to name anyone in this particular question, but it's quite an interesting one. Have you ever met a colt or a junior player that's turned up and you just thought, I can't do anything for this person?
No, absolutely not. That would say far more about the coach than it ever would about the player. I believe strongly that we exist to enable people to enjoy a game of cricket and all the benefits that come with that. Because ultimately we're hitting a bit of old leather with a bit of old tree. In the grand scheme of things, for the vast majority of this, it's never going to be our career. But it does have a deeper meaning for us because it's a community and it's enjoyment and it's exercise and it's mental health and it's physical health. So no, any kid that turns up is more than welcome, and we'll try and help them. I guess the only people it's difficult to help are those who don't want to learn or don't want to listen. But even then, you've got to get underneath why that might be. And we're fortunate, actually, most of the kids that come down, or all the kids that come down, want to be there. And we're not in the position of being school teachers where kids have to be there whether they like it or not. School teachers do a phenomenal job because you're trying to work with people who want to be in your classroom and people who don't. We have the fortune as coaches at Stony that almost all of the kids want to be there, unless their parents just want to come down for the bar and we're a babysitting service. But they're few and far between, I think.
Right. A couple of questions back in the hat, I think. Your best Stony memory as a player? You possibly touched on a few of them, but anything that springs to mind?
Well, I've got to say, like Steve Bellew, I actually thought that winning the third team championship, or the league we're playing in Division 6, playing against some first and second teams this season was great because we got to play cup cricket, which you don't often get to play knockout cricket. Almost always club cricket is league cricket or friendlies. And the most gratifying thing was the kids, or the makeup of the team, the camaraderie within the team, but the kids doing such a brilliant job. Boys and girls, which I think is good testament to Stony, bringing through youth players on the girls and the boys side, all with great skills. A couple of them, or more than a couple, already in county setups and going to go further. I thought that was phenomenal. So that was great. The other time probably was, well, not probably, was when we got promoted to the Premier League for the first time. And for the whole season, and I can't remember another time it's happened in my sporting career, but you turned up to matches knowing you were going to win. But it wasn't sort of the arrogant, complacent knowing you're going to win. You just thought whatever you did would be better than the opposition. And it was looking back, it's a very strange state to go and just know somehow you were gonna do it. And it was an absolute pleasure to be part of that team that played some really good cricket and got Stony promoted into the Prem.
Right, back into the hat. I told you before that this was going to come up, this specific word. So I'll just ask it. Why do you think you've got the nickname of Mr. Intensity?
Well, I think I know very well why. I think I'm an okay cricket player. I'm an okay batsman, not a good bowler. I made myself a good fielder, but what I can do and what I was able to do was channel my concentration and focus into doing a specific thing at a relatively decent state, probably at a level that was better than my batting ability. So I took that focus and narrowed it down on how am I going to make sure I can do the best possible job of opening the batting for Stony, and put quite an intense focus on that particular job. Hence, when I'm batting, I am very focused and intense on just doing that thing.
I couldn't comment.
But it's that's the way I felt I could achieve success, and play against players who were clearly better than I was in terms of either being or having been professional players. Um, so I had to work out how I could compete, and how I could compete was using my strength, which unfortunately isn't hitting beautiful cover drives and having shots all around the wicket and all the rest of it, but being able to focus my attention on doing something, on doing a few things as well as I could. Hence the nickname, I guess.
We've talked about that one, the 2020 season, and how that was different. On the subject of the intensity, and again, this is a question asked in the best possible taste. When you were captain, presumably you didn't have 11 George Woods out there. So how would you cope with somebody with a slightly more relaxed attitude to the game? As a captain and as a coach, actually.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say when I was doing the captaincy role, when I was doing the captaincy role, the outcome, just to add in, was that we did achieve our joint highest finish ever in the Premier League. So something was going okay. But and I can't remember what age I was then. It was some time ago, 2006, 2007, something like that. So a much younger man. Um, I feel we actually had a decent team. We did have a good team spirit, actually, and we gelled as a team, and we won quite a lot of games through the attitude we brought, rather than being having the best players. We were missing players through the season. So, however, if I reflect on it, certainly my style then would have not been as good as my leadership style now, I would hope would be. I've done, through work, you have more senior positions in your working life, you get to understand people better, you mature, and therefore I would certainly captain differently now, in a way that hopefully engaged more into and with more empathy for all the different character types I was working with. However, still with the focus on we want to deliver. Coaching, I find completely different, actually, because coaching, you're not as, especially at a junior level, you're not quite as wrapped up in the result. The result, actually, for me, for a lot of junior cricket, the result, of course, we want to win, the kids want to win, but the real result is kids developing. And therefore, I'd have a much more open style with the kids. Still want them to focus, and I still want them to learn how to do that. But actually, it's about bringing their character to the game and enabling them to express themselves through the game. So I take quite a different approach with my coaching style.
One final question, because I can see we're getting to the 45 minutes, and I always worry it's going to chuck us off the call. But in your My Stony story, you obviously talked about the first 20 years that you've had playing for Stony. It's more than 20 now. But you alluded to the fact that you want to play on for another 20 years, or at least be involved with the club for another 20 years. So what would you say you're looking forward to the most in that next 20 years of involvement?
Yeah, I would. I think the club's in a great place. Some really good people. It's strong and sustainable. I'm really looking forward to seeing the juniors, more and more juniors coming through, more and more homegrown players. Yeah, getting to Stony first team, but actually we've got a number of players with the potential to go much further than that, and I'll enjoy seeing their journey. I'd like to see us expand more, because we got a whole heap of kids coming through who want to play cricket somewhere. So it's great that we've added a Sunday league team now. We've got the girls coming through as well, and I think we're going to have some real great players from the women and girls side too. So I'm excited about seeing more success. I'm excited about seeing the club grow and expand, and I think we'll need to find ways to do that, to cater for all the kids that we've got coming through. And I'm excited about just playing cricket, because this lockdown has probably reminded people of the privileged position we have, that we get to play a great sport in a great club environment, at some lovely grounds, and that shouldn't be taken for granted. I love playing the game. I love playing loads of sports. I love playing, and cricket is probably is right up there, in the ones I enjoy playing. And I'm looking forward to the privilege of playing for a few more years yet, a lot more years yet.
Like us, follow us, watch us. It's Stony Stratford Cricket Club.